Welcome to the Big Joe Facebook Live show. Hi, it's me, Big Joe. Hi there. It is February, and I decided on something. Oh, wait, what's going on there? Hold on. My Facebook did a little jittery thing there for a second. I thought we were going to get kicked off the air. That would not be good. Not be good at all. But I'm glad to have you here. I just want to see, hold on, all the things. They've moved stuff around. So my technologically unsavvy brain is not trying to figure it out, but not doing a good job of it. There we go. Okay, there's where all the things are. We're good. So it is February, and lately I've had a ton of time to write stories because, everything's still a little bit cuckoo bananas out there, which is kind of bad. But, I thought everybody thought this would be over by now, but we are still here, and I haven't got to see as many friends out there, all of you out there, as I've wanted to. So I decided to not only, get back to doing what I love, which is the Big Joe Facebook Live show, but also giving you some new stories, treating you some new tales. So if you haven't seen me in a while, or if you've never seen me before, and if you've never seen me before, where have you been? Where have you been? I'm very popular. I'm kidding. And then thank you for joining us. Those joining us now, and it makes me very happy. Dylan and Henley, hello. And I'm excited to see all of you tonight as well because I have some new stories. Now, we're going to get right to it because I want to get to all the stories. The very first story I have is a very, very good look into my brain. You don't want to be there. It's kind of weird. It's kind of a weird place to be. But what I do as a storyteller, I read lots of stories. You can't see because I have the lovely thing behind me here, my lovely studio. But if you saw behind that, you would see hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books because I have lots of books. I like to read stories as much as I like to write stories and tell stories. And so I'm reading stories all the time. And I'll read a story. And when I read a story, sometimes I'll take that story and get it ready for all of you and tell it to my audience and tell it to my friends. But sometimes when I read a story, it gives me an idea for another story. And so I think, ooh, that was a pretty good idea. I could make that into a story. And I do. And I write down and I write and I create and I make it into a story. This very first story that I'm going to tell you is actually kind of funny. I discovered this story recently, and I read it, and it was a very cool story. And I thought, okay, that would be a really nice story to have. And I just remembered I don't have the thing that needs to go with it. I'll be back in a minute. I have to go downstairs for a second when we start the story because there's a creature in the story that I need very much for a puppet for the story. But when I found the story, I thought it was a good story to tell, so I put it together. I changed it a little bit from where it was, originally, and I'm presenting it to you. However, I realized after I started telling the story that I've actually read this story many, many years ago and made it into another story. And I will leave it to you. Have my commenting section over there. If you can sort of see the similarities between the story I'm about to tell you and a very, very, one of my very best favorite stories, you can let me know in the comments. And at the end of the story, I'll tell you the connection between this story that I'm about to tell you and another story that I wrote many, many, many years ago. So let's get right to it. This story is called Pepper for Soup. And hold on one second, I have to go down to the basement for a second. And while I go, just to entertain you, hold on one second, just make sure it's the right one. There is, for your own edification, a teddy bear. There we go. Hello. I am a teddy bear and a windbreaker. This is going to entertain you for a second while I find what I'm looking for because goodness knows I should have had this all set up before the show began. That would have been a funny thing. But, God forbid I do any sort of prep work. That would have been actually, I remembered everything but the one there. And so, well, we're going to have to go with a duck, aren't we? Okay, we'll go with the duck. Fine. Fine. All right. And now back to this is actually pretty cool. I should do the whole show like this. I will just be a cute little teddy bear. Hello, Aurora. Hello, Siv and Glenn. Hello, all my friends. Hello, Evie and Nora. Hello. Okay, now back to the human being that is doing the show. Hi. All right, because I can't find the puppet that I was going to do the story with, we're going to have to change it up a little bit, make it a duck, pet duck. So, once upon a time, there was a husband, there was a mother. We'll do it that way. There was a mother, there was a father, there was a brother and a sister, and they all lived in a little house in the middle of a forest. Well, one night, the mother said, "You know what? I want to make my favorite soup. I want to make my favorite spicy soup." And all the family licked their lips. because they loved Mom's favorite soup. Oh, Mom made the best soup in the world. Dad made good soup, he made okay soup, but Mom made the best soup. And she needed all the ingredients, and she put the ingredients together, and she realized she didn't have pepper. And so she said to her son, please go to the store and get a jar of pepper. I need the pepper for the soup. And he said, okay, Mom. And so the son went down the road, and he went to the store, and he said to the man in the store, I need some pepper for my mom's soup. And he said, no problem. And he went on the shelf, got a jar of pepper, gave it to the boy. The boy gave him some money, and he took that jar of pepper and headed back home. Well, he was heading home, and as he was going home, he walked over a bridge. And when he walked over the bridge, from under that bridge, there came a bear. A big bear. A scary bear. A cute bear. No, you're not cute. I'm cute. You're not cute. I'm cute. Stop it. Just back to the story. Okay, it's a new story, so we got to keep it in our head. You have things in that head, right? You can tell the story. Yes, I can tell the story. Just don't blow my rhythm. Get going. Okay. Over there. Hello. Well, Bear came out, and Bear said, oh, you came across my bridge, and you look delicious. I'm going to eat you up. And the boy screamed, ah! And he tried to get away, but the bear grabbed him, and when he did, the boy dropped the jar of pepper, and the bear grabbed the boy and ate him in one bite. And he was in the bear's belly. Help! Uh-oh. Well, Mom was there, and she looked at her watch, and she said, what is going on? What is taking him so long? And she said to her daughter, go and see what is taking your brother so long. Go and see. And she said, okay. So she went to the store, and she said to the man in the store, was my brother here? He came to buy some pepper. And the man said, yep, I sold him the pepper, and he left a few minutes ago. And she said, oh boy, I got to go find him. And so she was heading out to find him, and she crossed over the bridge. And when she did, out came the bear. Yep. And the bear said, whoa, you crossed my bridge. You look delicious. I'm going to eat you up. And the girl screamed, ah! And she tried to get away, but the bear grabbed her and ate her in one bite. Hump! Now the brother and the sister were in the bear's belly. Yup. Well, the mother was looking, and she looked at her watch again, and she was getting very, very annoyed. And she said to her husband, please, please go and see what is taking these kids so long. What is happening? And he said, all right, I'll go. And so he went to the store, and he said, was my son or daughter here? And she said, yep, your son came. He said, yep, your son came to get some pepper, gave him some pepper, and then your daughter came looking for him. They went out that way. He said, oh boy, these kids probably out playing. I'll go find them. So Dad searched and looked for his kids, and he crossed over the bridge. And you know what's going to happen. Out came the bear. Yep. And the bear said, whoa, you've crossed my bridge, and you look delicious. I'm going to eat you up. And he reached out and grabbed the father, and he screamed, ah! And the bear ate him up. Now there inside that bear's belly was the son, was the daughter, and was the father. Now mother was at home, and by the way, sorry, this story is brand new, and my brain no es bueno, and for those who speak Spanish, you know what that means. I forgot to tell you, the family had a pet duck. Here he is right there. I know I forgot to introduce you. I know, you're not supposed to be a duck, you're supposed to be a rabbit. Well, because I don't know where the rabbit is, so I had to go with you, you're the duck. I know you're cuter than the rabbit, but you're new, and that's why I forgot to introduce you. I know I should introduce you. Yes, this is the duck. Thank you. Okay, can we get back to the story now? Yes, all right. Well, the mother was getting very annoyed, and she said, all right, this is getting ridiculous. I have to go find my family. And so she went to the store, and when she got to the store, she said, was my family in here earlier? And the man said, yep. Your son came to get some pepper, gave him some pepper. Your daughter came looking for him. Your husband came looking for them, and now you're here. Well, they all went that way. And she was very mad. And she went to go and find them. And she walked over that bridge. And of course, you know what happened. Out came the bear. Yep. And the bear said, whoa, you crossed my bridge, and you look delicious. And I'm gonna eat you up. Now, Mom wasn't that scared of things like that, and she didn't scream. Well, even though she didn't scream, bear still ate her up. In one bite. Now there was the mom and the dad and the brother and the sister all in that bear's belly. There was nobody left at home except for the duck. Their pet duck was walking around, And he quacked, quack, and he quacked again, because he didn't know what was going on. So the duck decided to go and find everybody. So he went down to the store where they would get the pepper. And when he got to the pepper, he saw the man at the counter. And the duck said, quack, 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 quack. And the man behind the counter, who apparently spoke duck, said, yes, I've seen them all. Everybody came. They came for pepper, and they went that way. And the duck quacked, quack, quack, which meant thank you in duck language. And so the duck headed down the road. He headed down, and when he did, there was the bear. And the bear looked at that little duck, and the bear said, oh, you crossed my bridge. You look delicious, and I'm gonna eat you up. And the duck squawked and squealed and tried to run, and the bear chased him. Well, the duck didn't know what to do, but then he looked, and there on the side of the road, right in the grass, was the jar of pepper. So he grabbed that jar of pepper, and then the bear grabbed him and lifted up the duck and was going to eat him up in his great big mouth. And the duck took that jar of pepper and shook it right into the bear's big nose. And the bear, who now had pepper up his nose, went, achoo! And sneezed a tremendous sneeze. And when he did, out came the mother, thump. Out came the father, thump. Out came the daughter, thump. Out came the son, thump. They flew through the air, whoop, and landed in the clearing right near their house. Well, the duck ran away as well, and he carried that jar of pepper, and they all got back to the house, and they couldn't believe their eyes. They were all safe and sound, and it was all because of that duck, and they were all very happy and very relieved. Well, Mom made the soup, and she used the pepper to make the soup extra nice and spicy, and they all sat down to dinner. And at the head of the table for that very night, there sat the duck, and they made him the biggest bowl of soup, because he was the one that saved the day. And that is the end. Now, before we get to our next story, hang on, let me just scroll ourselves up. Hello, hello, hello. Oh, it goes that way. Okay. Hi. Whoop. Hello, David. Hello. Hello, Aurora, if I didn't say hello already. So that story that I told you just then, if you see the sort of similarities, I have a story called The Teeny Tiny Fly and the Great Big Whale. Watch one of the old Facebook Live shows, because I'm sure it's in there somewhere, because I like that story. But I wrote that story a long time ago, and I realized I read that story, the one I just told you, a long time ago as well. And I read that story, it said it sounded good, but I made it into a story about a whale and a fly and who saved the day. So it has that same similar kind of a thing where everybody gets eaten, and then the littlest creature of them all, in this case a duck, but in the other case a fly, saved the day. So that is where I got the influence. So you could do that as well, my friends out there. When you hear stories from me, or if you read stories, and I hope you do, you could take ideas from that story and make them into other stories and make them into really cool things. And there's lots of examples out there in the storytelling world, because there are a lot of similar stories where they have the same kind of thing and they make it into something very new and very special. And that's what I like to do, and I hope you like that story there. So, on to our next story, and our next story is going to be called Yes, Indeed. Now, this is an old story. It's new for me and new for you, but the story itself is kind of old, and I'll tell it to you. Once upon a time, there was a man, a poor man. He didn't have much. He had worked hard. He had many jobs, did many things, but he wasn't earning much, didn't have much. In fact, all he had were 1, 2, 3 coins. 3 coins to his name. Now, you would think that would be a very little bit, and you'd be right. He didn't have much money to buy a nice house. He didn't have enough money to buy good things to eat or good clothes to wear, and he didn't know what to do. Well, he was trying to figure it out when one day, on the branch of a tree outside of his house, there was a bird. And the bird sat there. And he looked at the bird and he said, "Oh, hello." And the bird said, "Hello." And the man was shocked. He never heard an animal talk. He said, "Good day." And the bird said, "Good day." He said, "How are you doing?" And the bird said, "How you doing?" When that bird could talk, that gave the man an idea. A very sneaky, a very tricky idea. He thought and he thought if the trick could work, and then he thought, yes, it could. So he taught the bird to say a phrase. He said, I want you to say, yes, indeed. Yes, no. Yes, indeed. Indeed, no. Yes, indeed. Indeed, no. Yes, indeed. Indeed. Okay. Yes, indeed. Yes, no. Yes, no. Stop. Yep, stop. And then finally, after a lot of work, the bird said it. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. He said, that's good. And all day long he would say that to the bird, and the bird would repeat it back. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And now he was ready for his plan. He took his only 3 coins and decided to put his plan into action. So he went into the village late at night. And right there by a great big tree, he dug a hole and put in one of the coins. And then he went on over, right near the side of the road, to a great big rock. And right near that rock, he dug a hole and he put the second coin in that hole and covered it up. Then he went on over, and right there, by a big, huge patch of grass, he dug a hole and put in that third coin. Well, covered it up. And the next morning he came into town carrying his bird. And all the people looked and saw that very colorful bird that he had. And they said, oh, what a nice bird. Oh, what a wonderful bird that is. And he said, oh, you don't know the half of it. This bird is very, very special. And they said, why is he special? Why is he special? He said, well, he is good at finding money. He can find coins all over the place. He's very good. He has a sense. I don't know whether it's his nose or his ears or his eyes, but he has the sense to find coins. He can find coins all over the place. And they said, no way, no way. And all the people said, get out of here. You don't know what you're talking about. He said, all right, follow me. And some of the people from the village followed him all the way over to the great big tree. And he pointed to the ground right near the tree. And he said to the bird, is there a coin buried there? And the bird said, yes, indeed. And he dug and he dug and he dug. And there was the coin. And the crowd gasped. And they said, wait a minute. He's just getting lucky. He just got lucky. No way, no way. And he said, all right, you want more proof? Let's go. Follow me. And he took him over to the great big rock. Now, by this time, more people had heard what was going on. They saw a crowd gathering, and they were very interested. And so more people gathered. And he went near the rock, and he said to the bird, is there a coin buried there? And the bird said, yes, indeed. And he dug and he dug and he dug. And there was that second coin. Now the crowd gasped. And they gasped even more. People were amazed. They couldn't believe it. And people started to whisper in the crowd. And there was such a commotion that more people joined. And they came over. And some of them were still skeptical. They said, no way, no way. He's just lucky. They said, all right, fine. I'll show it to you. And so he said, follow me. And they went down the road to the great big patch of grass. And he said to the bird, is there a coin buried there? And the bird said, yes, indeed. And he went down and he dug and he dug and he dug. And there was that third coin. Now the people were amazed. 1 time, yeah, that's lucky. 2 times, it could happen. But 3 times? 3 times the bird found coins in the ground? Oh my goodness, that had to be something amazing. And people said, what a special bird. And somebody in the crowd said, I'd like to buy that bird. And the man held him tight. He said, oh, no, I could never sell a bird like this. Someone to bring me good fortune. Oh, I could never do this. And one person in the crowd said, I will give you 20 coins. Another person said, I'll give you 50 coins. Another person said, I will give you 100 coins for that bird. And he still held tight. They said, please sell us the bird. And one person's stuff came out of the crowd, and he got out and he said, I will give you 200 coins for that bird, for that bird is valuable, so very valuable. And the man said, all right, as much as I don't want to, I will sell my precious bird. And so they went, and they got the 200 gold coins, and the man gave it to him. And he took those gold coins and gave him the bird. He said, thank you for doing business with me. And he headed off down the road, all the way out to his own house. Well, the man who bought the bird felt very, very proud of himself. For he was going to make a fortune. He was going to go all over the land and find lots and lots and lots and lots of gold coins. Oh, it was going to be great. And so he went on over to a tree. And he looked at the bird and he pointed to the ground. He said, "Is there a coin buried there?" And the bird said, "Yes, indeed." And he got down and he dug and he dug and he dug and he dug and he dug, but didn't find anything. So he went on over down the road, and there was a little lake. And right by the lake, he pointed to the ground. He said, "Is there a coin buried there?" And the bird said, "Yes, indeed." And he got down and he dug and he dug and he dug and he dug and he dug, and of course, there was no coin. He did it 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times. He kept on doing it. Every time the bird would say, "Yes, indeed," but there was no coin there. And he sat down on a rock, and he was very upset. He said, Did I get tricked? Did I get tricked?" And the bird looked, and the bird smiled, and the bird said, "Yes, indeed." And yes, indeed, he was tricked. And that man took those 200 gold coins, went down the road, and had himself a very good life. And that is the end. All right, one more story for you. And I'm going to tell it to you. It's a story about kindness. It's a short story with a very good message. I've decided to switch it up a little bit. I know in the description I had a story about a king and a mouse, but I will save that for our next show. Our next show is going to have a new story in it. But this story is called The Ant and the Bird. It's a very old story and a very simple story, and I have never told this story, but I'm telling it to you tonight because I like you all very much, and I want to teach you this story. And it has a very good lesson to it. I'm not usually one for morals and fables and stuff, but it's a very good lesson, especially in these times. Once upon a time, there was an ant. Hello. An ant was going for a walk by the river. Well, Ant looked and saw what he thought was food right near the river. And he went on over. And when he went on over, he slipped, whoop, and tripped, whoop, and fell into the river, sploosh. He started to struggle. He couldn't swim. He was floating around, and he started to float down the river. And there was a rabbit hopping down, and he said to the rabbit, "Help, help, help!" But the rabbit just kept on hopping and ignored him. Well, he floated further down the river, and he kept going under and up and under and up, and he was having trouble. He was having water go up his little nose. I have a little nose. Yes, I know you have a little nose. And he kept on going up and down, and there was a chipmunk. And the chipmunk was on the grass eating some stuff. And he said, "Chipmunk, help, help, help!" But the chipmunk just went right back to eating his stuff. And the ant floated down, and he could hardly stay above. He was going to drown. He was going to go under that water and drown. And there was a bird sitting up on the branch of a tree. And he said, "Bird, help, help, help!" Well, the bird wanted to help, so the bird went and grabbed a leaf, and he went on over, and he dropped the leaf into the river. And the ant jumped on that leaf and used it like a raft, and he rafted himself all the way to the side, and he was safe. And Ant was happy. And Bird was happy for being kind. Yes. And he was very, very happy and sitting on that branch. Well, time went by, and the ant was going for a walk, and the bird was sitting on the branch. And he was going to thank that bird again for helping him. And as he was going out of the woods, there came a hunter. And the hunter wanted to shoot that bird. The hunter saw the bird, and he took out his gun, and he held it up. And he was going to shoot that bird. He had it lined up. He had his shot nice and lined up to shoot that bird. Well, when Ant saw that, Ant went over. And he went right to that hunter's foot. And he went right there, and right on the hunter's ankle, he gave it a great big bite. And the hunter went, "Ow!" And when he fired his gun, boom, it fired into the air. And the bird saw that and heard that and flew away. And he was safe. Well, a while later, after the hunter left, the bird landed, and the ant was there. And he said, "Thank you for saving me." And the ant said, "Thank you for saving me." and ant and bird became friends, and from that day on they always kept an eye on each other, and they always kept each other safe. Well, the moral of my story, I told you it was a short story, but it has a nice moral to it, and the moral of my story is be kind to everyone you meet, to everyone you see, because you never know where help is going to come from. You never know who is going to help you, and if you are kind to someone, someday maybe someone will be kind to you. And that is the end. Now, I want to thank you for joining me, and we will be back next week, and I will tell you some more news stories. I have 3 news stories in line for you. One of the ones I was going to tell tonight, and some more. And just before the show, someone had contributed to my digital adventures. They have done it on through Venmo. And if you would ever like to donate to my cause, the cause of storytelling fun, you may on Venmo and PayPal. I'm at Big Joe the Storyteller. One big word. And as I always say, nothing is ever expected, nothing is ever asked for. If you want to do it, it is always appreciated, because especially in these crazy times, every little bit helps. And I want to thank you. I do this not for that, but for this, for making you happy. So if you're watching this now live, or if you're watching this later on, I hope you enjoyed the show, and I hope you got some smiles and some happiness in these really crazy times. So everyone have a great day, and I will see you next time. Thank you very much, my friends. Have a good day.